Okay, the lady says we're recording, so here we are. Hello, everybody.
Hello, good
And
people.
hello, John, my friend. I'm so
Hey,
excited to have you today.
thank you for having me.
Yeah. So let's talk about this cricket situation
Okay.
because a lot of us are getting this thing where we get the ping from the universe. We're not just
Yeah,
making it up. We get the
yeah,
ping to create something, a
yeah.
class, an offering, whatever. And then it's crickets for a long time.
Yes.
So what do you do?
Um, you fucking go crazy. No, you feel like going crazy. That's the first
That's the
thing.
first.
And the second thing you do is you go into judgment of what are you doing wrong. And the third thing you do is usually this fucking sucks. Uh, and I've had recently like that experience for some months. And uh, the next question of it is for me is what in access we use is what else is possible. And so then I start going by, I go back. And so then I think that there's another practice of expanding outside of what you see and what's demanding to be created that hasn't been created yet.
Yeah.
And I
I
think that
also I tend to ask, okay, like what what is required, like my energy contributing to it, what is required and what do I need to receive?
yes.
Because we think because you're in the free fall state.
Mhm.
You don't really have any markers or milestones, but there is something being created just by the 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 energy of it.
Right.
And just hasn't actualized yet. So if we don't go to conclusion that it's not working, it's not showing up.
So, so
Yeah.
I think what you said earlier too, then you have to start making demands. I'm going to do this as long as you show up, if the universe show up like that, you got to bring me people or this won't work. And I know
Mhm.
people are like, what are you talking about like that? It's just like, well, I'm not willing to settle. The universe, I'm gonna give you, and I think that Dane talked about that in the Being You book once before. He was saying, if the universe, if something doesn't change, I'm leaving, I'm out of here. And so I think it comes to the point of however you want to get there, what type of conversation you want to. And the other piece is asking entities to help support you
It's so
because
funny that you said that and your screen changed. Isn't that
they
entities?
play a lot here with me.
They're
So
playing right now.
yeah, yeah,
Yes, and I have a talk to the entities
yeah,
class starting tomorrow. So
yeah,
all you last minute
yeah.
people.
Um, One of the things that I realized is um, recently on my birthday, I stretched out. I had an amazing conversation with Dane a week before my birthday, and then I was talking to one of my business team players, and we talked about entity stuff, and I turned some stuff back on and started having my moments with my entities, and then all of a sudden, two things happened. They start helping me with my business. I talk to my business as an entity.
Yeah.
And I start really having a conversation like I'm having now. Like,
Yeah.
how can I contribute to you? How can you contribute to me? What would it take to be creative? And all of a sudden, all these new classes have been dropping into my space. Uh, and I guess being willing, like you said, when you get to the point where crickets come in, what else can be created is the question. I had a different who gave me this. I've never had it before. This thing called Akashic record reading, and I
Hmm.
had it. And the person was in the reading say, "Hey, I'm getting this information. Now, this is not the first time I heard this information. Gary Douglas from Access said to me, John, there's a book in you someplace. This was some years ago. And what the most about this morning, I woke up and I just started writing. And asked my team, my entity team, to help create something more because I was like, what in the creation of classes, I keep notes. Those notes are actually creating chapters in a book,
Cool.
but it's not going to look like chapters of a normal book because I'm not normal.
Right.
And one of the pieces I think that you can ask me here, Crickets, is how do I find to myself to be able to receive the information that I'm not hearing? And I think that's part of it. I think part of it is when the crickets show up, it's not, I do this, oh, don't get it twisted. I do this all the fucking time. I go, well, something's wrong with me. I'm not doing, maybe I'm not cut out for this. You know, I've had that conversation recently, not like months ago, but recently I had this
Right.
conversation with John.
But don't you notice, like, the second you say it to yourself or say it out loud, it doesn't feel light,
Right,
right?
right.
And so it's like, okay, you know, we have to be honest with ourselves. Even if we have those moments, we also know that that's not true for
Right,
us.
right.
So it's really about what else is possible and
Yeah,
really using the tools to go outside of that comfort zone, outside of what normal is,
right,
to create through question,
right,
choice,
right,
possibility, contribution. And
right.
it is not an easy space to be
Yeah,
in.
but and so here's the piece about, but it's something I have to say to you, Julie, something shifted. Don't get it wrong. I'm not where my business, I desire my business to be, but I'm noticing a different energy.
Yes.
And this is a piece that I'm learning for just me. This probably doesn't affect anybody else. Maybe money is desiring to show up in different ways. And
Yes.
when you set a business, a lot of times what I was doing is I was like, well, I have to create money from being John Ashford business. And I forget about the other billion possibilities from someplace else.
The
And it's
magic
not like I'm
money.
stopping doing that. I'm saying what I'm saying is sometimes just in doing classes and I'm gonna say this, in the States, some fucking shit's going on right now. It's a wonky energy. There's a lot of change happening. But I'm beginning to realize that some people can't hear it. So I'm asking, how can I fine tune myself to speak to those individuals who want to choose it? I'm not going
Mhm.
after people who don't want to choose it, but how do I adjust John? Like it's like going on the radio. You go on the radio station. I have XM radio, and so there's a billion radio stations, and you just turn the dial and goes to each one. So the one I hear the song that vibes with me, I'm like, even though I turn the music loud, I'm like, I'm driving down the road, right?
Right.
What is your business requiring from you to be that energy? And to look outside of just it being the so because what happened is that, and I share this because I'm feverishly writing this book, and it's a fucking first it's fun and it's a journey. And what happened before when Gary said to me, I didn't look at that. I look at it as a tedious thing. I had to go to my office. No, my book is going to be fucking totally different than anybody else seeing in the world. And I'm writing it with John having fun.
Totally.
And then my ex thing is that I did a class last week. I've been doing this money workbook classes. My money workbook classes, they're extraordinary. People tell me, and the numbers are growing every time. Again, like, I think the first time I had like 6 people, now I have like 12 people. And people are like, and they're coming back and they're like, whoa, what is this? So where are we not asking the question when crickets show up is how can I be different? Not wrong, but different.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's where I'm going with the crickets because uh I want people to get this, and I know the entities are going on and off because I did not do I was supposed to do some 8:30 with them. They're probably doing like, hey John, you forgot about us this morning. I haven't forgot about you guys, so you guys can leave the light alone on my computer if you choose to. Uh, but one of the things I think that can happen is I've been doing this for like 28, 30 years now. I've been doing this meditation. And not a meditation where you look at a wall and fall asleep. That's not what I call meditation. It's the thing where I'm moving stuff around my body. I'm playing with my organs.
Hmm.
It's very vivacious. And I'm beginning to do that with everything.
Hmm.
So if I move this coffee mug over here, what would that look like? If I move that over here, if I show up as this energy. And the other thing that uh, that gets me now is, how can I be an energy? I said, you and I were talking about this. I was sharing with somebody that I'm one of the better probation officers in Portland, Oregon for juveniles, but I'm willing to be really fucking different and weird as fuck with. And so I started to say that with my business. If the crickets show up, how much weirder can I be so the crickets start to be like, we got to get the fuck out of here. Let's bring people in here, and it's a challenge to me, like where, I think of the first person to come to mind for me is Dave Chappelle. Dave Chappelle had this wonderful show. He disappeared for a year or two, some years, I guess, came back, he's back on it. People attack, people make judgments. Like, that's your judgment. He keeps it moving. And I'm looking at people, not plagiarizing anybody, but like, what about that MG can I turn up within me and my business? And not just my business, with other people. And that will allow the crickets to go away.
Yeah. One of the things that Shannon talked about or talks about that always sticks with me is when you let your unique essence out into the world, that it's intoxicating and people can't resist it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always asking, like, what other ways or how much more can I allow whatever the essence of me is to be seen, to be accessed? And I also notice when there's crickets, we tend to go to, well, like, who do I know that might be interested in this or ready for this? But that's our judgment, instead of like, wow, I wonder what people are seeing this and who I don't know that might show up.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other piece is, I have a coworker here that I love dearly. His name is Tim Upshaw, and I want to give him credit because he's like, John, you just have to not give a fuck. Just do what you do. And I really am at that space now where I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I'm doing this because I'm having fun. And if you want to come along, you can. And when I let go of how many show up, I'm beginning, like I said, my numbers are increasing. And it's not really about the numbers. It is for business. Let me take that back. Destroy not fade out.
You have to have both. You have to, like, you're doing it to create the change, but you also can't have an outcome of the change. You also have to be willing to receive the money, but you're not doing it for money. I mean, it's like, it's the weirdest thing. Yeah. And so, yes, we get that. Yeah. And who's willing to come and pay you money and not receive anything like that can happen too.
And if you're being so much fun, see, I realize, and I'm not turning me down anymore. I'm turning me up. Yesterday, I went to a local natural grocers. I don't know if it's any place in the other states. I know it's on the West Coast, I think. Yeah. I went to natural grocers, and it's I don't know how you describe it. It's not a specialty store, but it's more of a natural store. Okay. And so I go in there and it's packed. So I'm standing in line, and one of the cashiers, she comes over and says, hey, I can take you in lane too. And I say, sure. I go over there, and she says, I didn't have a bag because they don't usually have bags there. So she gave me one of the store bags. She says, I think you need this. And I was like, cool, sister. And I didn't have a bag. It's a little, you reuse bags stuff. Right. So we start having this conversation. And what I was able to perceive is that the difference, the weirdness I'm willing to be, I'm beginning to stand out. When I walked past the gentleman on the next aisle, aisle one, he looked like he wanted to get in the conversation because she was telling me about school. And I was like, I said, how's it get better than that? And so when I walked by, he looked, and it wasn't a look like, ugh, it was a look like, you have a moment. And I'm like, where are we not willing to be that invitation to everything, to the trees, to the business? And when you expand, because what I'm finally fucking getting is it's not really about the business, it's about the being. And the crickets, the crickets only show up when we're bored, and people can perceive the boredom.
You think?
Yeah, because
Huh.
here's the piece about it. This is why I say it. I use this analogy because I'm from Chicago. Okay, no one who loved basketball never was fucking bored when Michael Jordan was playing.
Yeah,
Nobody. If
but
you love the game of
before the
basketball, if you love
game, before it starts.
his energy was there. When he was in town, you knew it.
Hmm.
Most teams cringed because it's like, fuck, we're about to lose. And it's something, and because I met him a couple of times, I worked security for the Blazers when he was playing. I couldn't fucking wait to get there because there was a energy about him that I didn't know because I wasn't aware of. I was aware of something, but I didn't have the tools to be able to explain what I'm saying now.
I'm getting it. That's
Yeah.
a really cool awareness to have.
So,
So like
so
whatever it is that you're doing in your life, being totally thrilled and engaged and having fun
yeah,
and not being bored.
I can never lose. My business is never gonna go under. He knew. And some people say he really wasn't the best, but he was the best at making people think he was best. And it's an energy about that, and it can be misunderstood as an arrogance.
Right.
But I'm okay with that because I'm not really speaking to that person anyway. I'm speaking to the masses. And what invitation was he to make everybody better, especially other players,
Yeah.
people in the arena, because he was doing things that were unbelievable. If you ever got to see him in person, he actually climbed through the air with a basketball with nothing underneath, and he would fly.
Yeah.
And people were in amazement because why? Everybody wanted to fucking learn how to fly. So where are we not being the invitation in our business to allow people to fly?
Totally.
And that's where I'm like, I don't give a fuck no more. I'm doing what I'm doing. I'm gonna do it. I can do it. And if it's true what we say in Access, every 10 seconds you choose something different if it doesn't work. And I even went to the point, not that I don't want to ever do Access, but I got out of the thing that this is the only thing I can do. Because there was a point of me where I was judging myself with, what am I do without this? Well, what the fuck? I'm not one dimensional.
Right.
And I'm only one dimensional because I made this the only thing. So why don't I expand on that and include Access with it in my classes? So other things, and this book is like what I do. Part of this book, it has some Access stuff in it, but it's not just about Access, it's about me working with kids. And it's just stories that I'm telling that might engage people to be different.
Right. Yeah. It's funny. Somebody once said to me, you show up more as a jewelry designer than an access facilitator. And I went into the wrongness of that
Yeah.
and tried to change it. And the more I did that, the more my jewelry business was like, hmm. And I thought, wait a second, this is what I do. This is what I love.
Yeah.
And I also love facilitating
Yeah.
access. So why can't I do both and more?
And asking the universe, like, in a given week, this is what my week looks like. I come to work with kids and families in Portland, Oregon, Multnomah County. On Tuesday nights, I do a culinary on YouTube. I have fun with it. Am I getting paid? Not yet. On Wednesdays and Thursdays, I usually do a domestic violence class. On weekends, I do access classes. I'm writing a book. I do one-on-ones with clients on weekends. I'm doing a lot of different things, and I do other things outside of that. And now I'm beginning to realize that's the joy of living for me. And now I'm including that energy in my business because I'm desiring people who want to have an experience different than what they've had before. And even if a class, so in Access, we do foundation class. So if you come to my foundation class, my big ask of the universe is that they have so much goddamn fun. And then we talk about some things that we've never talked about. And I get to and I'm in it for me. And that's the difference with it. I'm in it for me,
Absolutely. Yeah.
not for the other people. I tell them me that you're just along for the ride. I hate to be, I'm being selfish here, but we're going to go for a ride. You're in my car. I'm driving. You can talk to you when I get tired. You can drive the car too. But I don't know if that makes sense. Being that energy of inviting people is how I think we dissipate the crickets. And when we spoke about this earlier, I was like, yeah. And the crickets were a contribution so that I could get to this point of awareness.
Yeah. And when people come to my foundation class or facelift class or whatever class, there's that it's like they'll stand up taller and they'll have more sparkle in their eyes. And, I usually also do an evening event with jewelry so that they can experience something different.
Yeah.
Try it on and bring out more of the sparkly being that they are, that they forgot or maybe turned down. And I have one coming up in Las Vegas of all places. Like, and I'm like, really? Las Vegas universe? Really? And it was pinging. And so here it is going to be at the Venetian.
Wow.
Like the opulence and beauty there, like how many people allow themselves to step into that space and be comfortable in it and actually own it.
Yeah.
And like for me, yes, absolutely. I'd like a castle, please.
Yeah. That. And that's how I'm beginning to live now. It's just like, I don't know, like there's certain things coming up that I'm attending and it's not where I want things to be, but I'm beginning to see the magic. So I'll share with this. So in my How to Become Money workbook, and I have to go because I think we have to both jump on. We have ESP in about 8 minutes, but so in my How to Become Money workbook, I was so excited. I said, "Oh, how do I give them some home play before the class starts for the people who signed up early?" And so I was like, "What speaks to me?" So I watched tons of movies, and somehow I flipped through Willy Wonka Chocolate Factory with Gene Wilder, the version with Gene Wilder. And I sat there and I was late and I was watching, I was falling asleep, and he starts singing the song Imagination with Charlie. And I woke up to that and I was like, I heard some words. So I went to YouTube and I pulled up the lyrics and I was like, oh, what if people could be that energy of Charlie's imagination with money? What does that create? And all of a sudden things start pinging for me. Certain business things start pinging for me. I was like, so I sent this out and people were like, well, I've never had that experience before. I was like, I know, I've never had this experience before. So when you start to turn it up, those crickets have to go away. And I think the crickets are there, like the contribution of crickets is, they're like, you're bored. What do you want to do different? You're fucking bored. What do you want to do different? Crickets are not telling us to stop. They're like, what do you fucking want to do different?
Right, exactly.
So yeah.
That's good. I like it.
So that's the contribution of crickets. It's just like, but when it first happens, y'all, damn. I was like, I would say stuff like this, fuck this. I know I'm better than this. And I was like, and then you don't want to get into the space of having to try to prove it, because that's too much fucking work.
Right.
So I just
and you have to look at, would you choose it anyway? Would you choose it anyway, even if nobody else was going to show up?
Yeah.
And for many, 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 many years now, I've been choosing this weird, wacky stuff called access, and that always changes. That's always new and different, even in the basic stuff. Like I've just been replaying with how does it get any better than this for the last week, like all the time. And it's amazing. It's like brand new again.
Yeah.
What we can create just from a simple question like that.
Yeah. I can't remember right now. Amy is her name. She's doing like 365 days of getting out of control.
Right.
And I was like, there's a class there for me. And I was like, she said, well, why don't you do 365 days? I was like, well, I have commitment issues. I was like, I think I'll start with 30 of those
Yeah.
first and see where I go with that, just to see and play with that. But when you get out of the way and promise yourself to have fun, then things start to show up different. It's like asking that question. And I say this over and over again. The only time critics are there because it's like, okay, here's the thing. I am interested in becoming a 3-day body facilitator. And this through Access Conscious. People don't know what that's about. And yesterday I had a class on the books and I didn't advertise. My Marine put it up and I didn't advertise it. And I was like, it's not time for me to do this. And what I've been is I've been blanketing things out like net fishing, I call it. And when the time came around, I was like, I don't want to do that now. And first I went, oh, you're lazy, you did it. And I was like, fuck you, John. You're not lazy. You don't want to do that right now. It's not fun right now.
It's
Don't
not,
fucking do it. And so I just didn't do it yesterday. And there was a moment like, I need to do this in my business. I was like, no, my business is going to be all right, one way or another.
Yeah. I had that with the bars class and I was like, don't want to do it. So I just took it off.
Yeah. And you have to be willing to be flexible. And here's the piece about that: flexibility goes into everything, not just your business, but your awareness of every fucking thing. If you get an inkling that I don't want to go out tonight, don't. If you don't, if you go to a restaurant and you sit down, you get the menu, they bring you the water, and you're like, oh, this doesn't appeal to me, get the fuck up and leave.
Yep. I've done that before. Totally embarrassed my
And
kids.
it's like, I don't want to be here right now. And it's not anything against the person or people in there. It's just like, right, it's not, and it's weird. So I get it. People be like, oh my God, you're fucking weird. I am.
Yes. But everything works out greater when you choose and follow that.
Exactly.
Well, cool. We should end so that we can get on to the other thing, but thank you so much for the conversation. And hopefully people watching in the future will get a lot out of it too.
Hopefully. Peace and blessings.
All right. I'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.